Good one. Shake it up again. Whew. What a day. What a day. I woke Sarah up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:45, and made her put on some waders and grabbed her and the dog, and I drove an hour and made them go steelhead fishing this morning. It was going to be sunny out, and it poured rain a couple days ago, and I thought it was going to be perfect. I thought for sure I'm going to hook her to some fish. It didn't happen. Didn't even get one on the camera. But I did get that cool video of Ruby shaking the water off. That was pretty cool. So now we're back. So I'm hiding. This is a great room to hide in, I'll tell you what. I'm hiding. And I'm going to get right into sharing some voices that have been waiting to be heard. Listen to this. Steve, my name is Rusty. I'm 52 years young. I'm a retired firefighter / EMT and rescue specialist and search and rescue tech for 26 years. I also served my country in the Army for 4 years and contracted with the DoD as Executive Protection Specialist. I am a trained observer. I know how to track, which leads me to 3 encounters in 2012, 2017, and my final in 2018 with the forest people in Washington State. First in 2012, while hunting deer in the Willapa Hills between I-5 and the Washington coast. I walked 2 miles into my lifelong hunting zone on private land, sat in a ground blind on a slash pile I built the summer before. It was 1 hour of nothing. No birds, no mama raccoon searching for crawfish in the creek below, not even the sounds of crows. I did hear a hush, talking in the brush. It went on for 20 minutes like a conversation. Frustrated by rude people, I left for that day. Day 2, early morning. Walked back to that spot with my son and his friend. Went out of the darkness. The loudest scream / roar from God only knows filled the valley. We all turned and got the hell out of there. 2017 new season. Walked into an area near a stand. 45 minutes passed. It's daybreak now. Clear sky. Some ground fog. The peace and quiet was broken by the sound of many feet, deer feet, running on the gravel road as 5 does ran past my blind heading up the hill. Startled me enough, where I stood up, looked downhill in time to see a dark, brown, hairy thing turn and run into the 25-year-old pine grove. I was terrified. In seconds, this thing was more than 200 feet from me, panting and grunting. I couldn't move. Instead of running, I yelled out, "Hey!" I don't know what the hell I expected, but I got nothing in return, and I got the hell out of there. And finally, I took my 80-year-old mother out with me in September 2018. She loves to hike and track, tomboy at heart. We walked back a half mile when we heard chattering. Quiet chattering like a conversation, yet not English. Walked a bit further, 50 to 75 yards, when we saw two dark figures, both about 5 or 6 feet tall, skinny, walking 20 yards back in the alder and pine, paralleling us as we walked. This went on 45 minutes. We'd walk a bit, stop, talk out loud to them. The chattering continued. Got to the end of the road where there was a 3-acre swamp created by beaver dams, and we got the feeling of don't go further. When listening to the chatter, we heard a deep, low grunt, like a father's annoyed by his kids screwing around, and the chattering stopped. The energy changed, as if someone was waiting for us to leave. We left, and we were followed out the entire way. We knew we ran across a family of forest folk, Bigfoot, Gigantopithecus, whatever. And I believe this group knows me. I've hunted there for 41 years. We didn't feel threatened or at risk, only watched. They have abilities that we humans don't understand. Millions of years of evolution of the species, perhaps, I don't know. But they are very real and deserve our respect. Keep doing what you're doing, Steve. Love the channel, your ideology, and your beliefs on being the best man for your family. Rusty, appreciate you, man. I appreciate you sending that in. I wonder if over your years of your career, if you had ever had any talkings to from the people in command over top of you when it comes to this topic. I wonder. I'm curious. Wouldn't be surprised if a lot of military, first responders, whoever do get a talking to, I wouldn't be surprised at this stage of the game. Interesting, right? Who's next? Where am I going here? There's a lot in here that are marked as not read, but I'm not sure if they have been or not. All right, so bear with me. Anyway, update on yesterday on my backyard. As everybody knows, I have seen these beings before in the forest. That's all there is to it. Seen them. So whenever I do have odd things happen to me, I possibly do not react to or give it the attention that a lot of you would expect me to, as don't, because I know they're there. I know they are there. So yesterday's video, something blew in my camera. I don't have a mic. I don't use a mic. These new GoPros have their own built-in mic. They pick up audio very well. And the audio on my Sony Handycam on the tripod is the only mic I was in use yesterday. It was the mic on the camera, which is about 6 or 7 feet from me. And it 100% sounded like somebody blew on the camera. And that wasn't a sound for me, I can assure you that. Whatever. But I know there is people here that are absolutely interested in every single detail shared by others and myself. Okay? So that's why I share everything here on this channel with you. And I don't talk about the subject outside of this channel. Very rarely. With other people. Like I'm doing a hunting pod. I'm invited to do, and I agreed to do a podcast tomorrow morning. It's a hunting podcast. Am I going to bring up the topic? No. If the guy asks me to speak about it because he noticed my channel has a lot of it on it, this channel, I'm probably going to say no. I'm not really into it. You want to talk about hunting? Let's do it. Because I do not believe you can promote this topic. And I do find if somebody has an honest interest in this topic, like they are very absolute for real curious, it's got nothing to do with views and likes and all the other shit, I'll talk to them about it. But anyways, what am I getting at? I'm really tired right now. What I'm getting at for all of you is like a feather. That feather, I was right beside that stump when I went down there yesterday morning. The feather wasn't in that stump. What else? A lot of people mentioned that they saw something, it looks like something sitting at the bottom of a tree. I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to have to go back down there and videotape again, and we'll look at the bottom of the tree again, and I'll time it so it's the same angle of sunlight. All right? Just because. Let's just say we go down there, and whatever was in the video yesterday isn't on there in the next video. What's it going to do for us? Not much. I shouldn't say that. What's it going to do for me? Not much. If it was something over there listening, so be it. That's just me, though, you guys. That's just me, all right? I always beg and plead for no one to jump on my bandwagon when it comes to my feelings. How I feel about different things. So there you go. That's my update on yesterday's video. Something left that feather on that stump while I was sitting on the quad. And something blew on the camera. Something made a sound come on the camera that sounded like blowing on it. There you go. End of story for me. And I will videotape the bottom of that tree, and I'll wait till the sun is at roughly the same time of day. All right? There you go. Moving along. Hi, Steve. My name is Tom, and you can use my name if you want. I hope this email finds you well. I've told one person this story, and it was to my 16-year-old nephew, and I told him recently. The guy I was hunting with doesn't know for fear of his ridicule, but this story we refer to as hunting with the Three Stooges Day. All right. It started out the day before opening archery season in Pennsylvania, Northwest PA, Allegheny National Forest. As we're hanging tree stands, so we don't have to haul them in on the long walk in, we like to go where no one else goes. About 7 or 8 miles drive in, and then another mile or so walk in. And that's where the big bucks hang out, as I'm sure you know. We left our stands. I put a lock on mine, and why? I'll never know. The morning couldn't come quick enough because we had cameras hung and checked them after we hung our stands, revealing a 180-inch plus buck. Whoa. And several shooters. And hardly slept that night. No doubt. Well, morning came and we headed out. I put my key to my stand in my wallet, and leaving in the morning, I forgot I did, and left my wallet on the camp table, not realizing this until I was at my stand. My buddy wasn't very happy, nor was I. I told him to go to his stand and I'll go get the key. He agreed, and when I returned to unlock my stand, the key broke off in the lock. And this is why we refer to hunting with the Stooges Day. I radioed him to tell him what happened, and I'll go to the pine spot. It's an old dead pine that fell over that you can walk out on, and it overlooks a small clearing about 80 to 100 yards away, with a natural seat about 15 feet up. As daylight broke, the woods were alive with the regular critters, squirrels, chipmunks, etc. I was sitting for about an hour or so when I suddenly noticed that all the sounds had stopped. Like someone shut the sound off, and a feeling of get out of the woods now came over me, and I can't explain it. Never happened before or since. And as I exited the woods, the smell of wet dog that rolled in a pile of rotting guts is the only way to explain it. Overcame my lungs, making it hard to breathe, and I couldn't get to my truck fast enough. The feeling I had wasn't terror, but as that I didn't belong, like I was trespassing and was being pushed out of that spot. I'm back to that spot, but not alone, and I do intend on going back by myself soon, as it is buck season in Pennsylvania. Thank you for your great videos, and as an avid person who watches Sasqua videos, what you stand for and what you're trying to do is awesome. I have another story from when I was 15 and spent a week with my great aunt in northwestern Wisconsin in the mid-'80s, but that's for another time. Thanks again, and keep the great videos coming. All right, man, I appreciate your kind words. And yeah, you got more? Send it. You got more from you and your aunt? Have an experience? Get it to us. We want to hear about it, and I want to hear about what happened to that 180 plus buck. Right? And I hope you're practicing the old when you're going hunting. I know you're here, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Routine. You don't want it ruined for you, right? Hi, Steve. I love your videos, your stories. input and the backdrops. You should make a calendar of them. And your personalized how to hunt fleeced camo beanie hat to sell and support your expenses. My name is Victor Maldonado. I'm a newly retired 20 years New York City corrections officer and a proud hunter. My encounter started when I was bow hunting in October 2017 at approximately 3 a.m. while hiking into the Sterling Forest State Park in Orange County, New York. As I hiked up a trail that I normally use while using a red light headlamp to illuminate the trail, I reached approximately 150 yards into the forest when all of a sudden my entire body hair turned to nails and a piercing high-toned sharp beep rang in my ears, causing all my nerves in my body to go haywire like if I was just electrocuted, and stopped me dead in my tracks, causing me to freeze in a paralyzing state that I couldn't move, breathe, or listen. That would suck. When I focused on my body's reaction, I started to tell myself to calm down, you're okay, repeatedly in my mind, because I didn't see any potential threat in front of me. I was then able to catch my breath and try to bring my heart that was beating like if I ran, and try to bring down my heart that was beating like if I ran in a marathon. I then grabbed my flashlight and bear spray and switched my headlamp light to LED bright white and proceeded to walk backwards on the trail while facing forward for approximately 60 yards and listened and didn't hear anything whatsoever in the forest. I then loaded my bow with 2 arrows and stood in the ready position for approximately an hour and 30 minutes to launch a defense, only to hear something walking away slowly, crackling the dry leaves and a sounded bipedal like a heavy person walking away. As it walked away, I listened until it was far enough that I could hear it fade away and hauled back to my truck and departed the area forthwith and didn't return until rifle season opened up November 18th. It's so true. When you say to other people that what happened, they look at you like you were hallucinating or didn't drink your coffee yet. Dismiss it. Steve, you stay safe and well, and thank you for your service, Vic. Vic, it's too easy to do this, and we can't do this without people like you, man. So thank you for sending that in, and that is a shitty feeling and experience to have. I don't want to experience being frozen and I can't move in the woods. That would change a lot, I think, for me. If I felt that would be possibly a game changer. It wouldn't be good. Here comes another one. This one looks like a long one. We'll see how it goes. Hello, Steve. Thank you for your channel. And my apologies up front for sending such a long email. Never apologize, ever, for that. The experiences I'd like to share occurred in the summer of '86. I was 15 years old at the time, and at a camp in the Ocala National Forest, which is a few hours drive north of Central Florida. Been there. The camp was located by a small lake called Deer Lake, and as you would imagine, there were plenty of outdoor activities. If I had to guess, there were probably about 60 kids there, which were split into 5 or 6 groups. Each group had its own campsite with building structures made out of timber and tarps, which all included wooden deck type flooring. The sides of the structures were tarp and basically half-height walls. The upper walls were completely open to the roof. We had old army beds and foot lockers to store our things, and there were 3 or 4 kids housed in each structure. Really cool stuff when you're a kid. It's important to note that Bigfoot or Sasquatch was not something that was well known or talked about like it is today. As a matter of fact, I didn't even come to the conclusion until decades later that the experiences we had in '86 were even Bigfoot related. When I was a kid, I just thought Bigfoot was some superstitious monster that roamed around the northwest U.S. I remember watching the old TV show In Search Of, which had a Bigfoot episode. That is basically everything I'd ever heard on the subject until many years later. Recent TV shows and channels on YouTube like yours is what convinced me that the experiences we encountered in '86 were related to Bigfoot. I'd like to start by mentioning odd things that happened and then expand into some more detailed occurrences. By odd things, I mean small rocks being thrown, hearing whispers, screams, knocking sounds, and more. Our campsite was located about 75 yards up a trail from the lake. The beginning of the trail was about a 5-minute walk around the lake from the main area where the dining hall and administrative buildings were. We'd normally keep to our group most of the day, and after lunch or dinner, walk back to the campsite. There were a few evenings around dusk as we were walking back and heard strange, undecipherable, and decipherable whispers coming from the woods. We knew it wasn't any of the other kids or groups joking around, and because they were all still near the dining hall, and our group was the only one walking towards our campsite. This occurred on 2 or 3 different occasions. Many times, I'd say almost daily, for a stretch of a few weeks, when we walked up the trail into our campsite, there would be 1 or 2 loud knocks. It sounded like a baseball bat hitting a tree, and then there would be quite an echo. The forest area surrounding the campsite was mostly tall pine and oak trees, and the bottom of the forest was a sea of palmettos. It was very beautiful, as you could see horizontally through the middle of the forest. The wind and sound would carry well. When there was wind on a hot summer day, it would be cool in the forest. I never thought anything of the knocking sounds until another kid mentioned, "Hey, do you ever notice those knocking sounds every time we come up the path into camp?" And he asked what I thought they could be, and I just answered, "I don't know. Forest sounds, I guess." And from that point on, we would jokingly yell out, "We're back," to the empty forest every time we walked into camp. One afternoon, after returning to the campsite, one of the kids insisted that he saw a man hiding in the palmetto underbrush about 50 feet into the forest. We all made our way through the palmetto underbrush, about 10 of us, to the area the kid pointed out, and searched around for a few minutes and didn't find anything. A few hours later, we heard the loudest screams I'd ever heard in my life. It sounded like a man screaming, but it was way louder. Someone screamed, "Ah!" for about 20 seconds, 3 or 4 times in a row, about a minute apart. Excuse me. I can only imagine the lungs on this person must have been multiple times the size of a normal man's lungs. The screams were coming from deeper in the forest outside of the camp property. I estimate it was maybe a half a mile or more away. No way to really tell the distance, but it was eerie and put all of us on edge. There's another incident where a kid was jogging around the lake. He did this almost every day, and one day we were told by the camp staff that the other side of the lake was off limits. When we inquired why, we were told that there was some type of animal seen by the kid jogging, and it seemed dangerous. When we asked the jogger what he saw, he would just turn white as a ghost and shake his head. We never learned what he saw. I got a good idea. About a week after that incident, we were informed to let the camp staff know if we saw anybody on the property that wasn't supposed to be there. We just thought they meant trespassers like poachers or something. Hunting wasn't allowed in that part of the national forest we were in, but you would hear gunshots every so often in the distance. One evening, everyone was in the dining hall eating dinner, and apparently someone noticed someone or something wandering around the outside of the buildings. About 20 of us grabbed flashlights and ran outside and chased what appeared to be a large man, but we couldn't see any details, as it just turned dark outside. We could only see a silhouette. It literally just disappeared. We looked around for about another 15 minutes and couldn't find anything or any tracks. It literally just disappeared. At our campsite, we had a wooden footlocker outside that was bolted to a table. And this is where we kept packaged and snack food like candy bars, granola bars, marshmallows, etc. It was never locked, but had a latch if one wanted to add a padlock. We always closed it and flipped the latch down to keep animals out. We didn't have a padlock, as anyone could simply grab whatever they wanted at any time. We could always get replacement snacks anytime from the main camp area. One afternoon, we came back into our campsite, and the top of the footlocker was open, and we soon noticed that the whole lid was ripped off its hinges including the latch that wasn't even locked. The only thing gone was a large bag of plain M&Ms. Everything else was still in the footlocker. An animal would not have done that. There would have been claw or bite marks, or the contents spewed about, or wrappers ripped open, as if it was a large animal. No person would have done that either, as anyone could easily lift the latch and open the lid as it wasn't locked. Today I can only assume that Bigfoot apparently likes plain M&Ms and doesn't understand the mechanics of how to lift a latch. There was an open mowed grass field area around the side of the lake that the camp is located. This is the main throughway. Everyone walked to the camp's office and dining area. We also played group games like capture the flag in this area. A number of times, small rocks were thrown at us from the forest we were in when we were in this field. They were always small rocks and nobody was ever injured. Nonetheless, it was clear there. It was clear there were no persons or kids in the forest trying to prank us. It was the same area we heard the whispering from on a few occasions. The things I've described so far are the small oddities that I can recall. But now, on to the more vivid, larger occurrences. Like the rest of it hasn't been enough already, right? And I don't mean for length, I mean for the experiences. One night, in the middle of the night, I was awakened by what I can only describe as thundering footsteps. And don't forget, there were 3 or 4 kids in one sleeping structure which had half-height walls. We had old army beds and mosquito nets we hung from the ceiling. We had tucked the hanging nets under the outside of each of our mattresses. You had your own mosquito-free zone. It was very dark and not really so cold that night. I remember there wasn't any wind. You could hear a pin drop. The forest was quiet, and when I was awakened, I was laying on my side, facing toward the outside of the tent, basically staring at the tarp of the half-height wall. I can only describe the footsteps as something out of a Godzilla movie, like a thundering echo. No, they weren't loud, but rather a thundering echo that I could feel through the ground. As I lay there awake, they seemed to get closer to our location. Excuse me. I remember putting my sleeping bag over my head and lying as still as possible. When the footsteps stopped, I knew there was something just outside looking in at us sleeping kids. I could feel its presence and hear low, deep breathing. After what seemed like forever, but it was probably more like 10 seconds, I could hear whatever it was walk off into the woods. But it was normal sounding walk at this point, and my fear had passed. Nobody else was awake, and I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me, but I'm 100% something was there even though I didn't see it. One Sunday morning, we were walking to the main camp dining hall for breakfast. Our whole campsite group, about 10 of us, were walking down the wooded path to the grass area by the lake. And then it would be another few minutes walk to the dining hall from there. And as we all got to the grass area, I realized I'd forgotten something. I can't to this day remember what it was, but everyone agreed that they would wait for me as I ran back up to the campsite to grab whatever it was, and I ran up the trail. As I walked into the campsite, it got oddly real quiet. So quiet you could hear your own blood pumping. Every hair on my body was standing on end, and I can't explain why I felt so scared. Even more scared than the night I felt something staring in our sleeping structure. I remember going to my footlocker, grabbing the item I forgot, and started to proceed back to the path which led me to the lake. At this point, I felt something off to the left of me in the woods. I felt terror, like none I've ever felt to this day, come over me, and I purposely did not look in that direction. I've been playing in the woods, hunting, and spending time outdoors for as long as I can remember, and nothing like this had ever happened before. I ran as fast as I could. I could feel whatever it was staring at me the whole way, and I just knew it could easily catch me if it wanted to. I made it to the field. I was out of breath. Everyone looked at me and said, "What happened? And why do you look as white as a ghost?" And I lied, and I just said I was winded from running because I didn't want to hold anyone up from getting to the dining hall. And that's the last occurrence I'd like to share. the sighting. Oh, sorry. This is the last occurrence I'd like to share. The sighting. There's a small pond just north of the lake. Deer Lake, as I mentioned prior, is what it's called. It's just east of Lake Jumper. I've looked on Google Maps, but since 1986, I guess the pond is overgrown or dried up. Only the lake is noticeable now. We, again, about 10 of us, were going to hike to the pond and spend some time fishing, exploring, etc. There's one camp counselor with us, and safety was always first, and nobody ever went off by themselves. We walked around the lake and then darted off on a natural path, and it was a small wadi, W-A-D-I. You could tell by the floor of the forest that water would drain down the wadi into the lake after heavy rainfalls. We were single file, and I was near the back of the line as we walked up this wadi. This is when I saw a small rock come flying from our right and hit the kid in front of me right in his ear. A few minutes earlier, some of the other kids noticed rocks being thrown at us, but we thought maybe someone was trying to prank us, and we yelled, "Stop throwing rocks," along with some cursing. And after the kid in front of me got hit, we all stopped and proceeded to fan out in the direction the rock came from to find the culprit. The forest wasn't so thick. You could see a fair distance, maybe 20 yards or so. If somebody was in rock throwing distance, we would have found him. We found nothing. We then went back to the wadi and started walking uphill toward the pond. Once we came out of the woods, we crossed a sandy Forest Service trail into a clearing where the pond was located. And if you could imagine, a clearing about half the size of a football field, but not as wide. The pond was on the left edge of us in that clearing. To the right of the pond and across the clearing, there were these vines that grew everywhere and just totally covered the side of the forest like a wall. It looked like a rolling sea of vines. As we came into the clearing, we saw what looked like a large man in black. I only saw a glimpse of the figure. I only saw a glimpse as the figure darted into the woods. But this figure was all the way at the other side of the clearing from us, and I'll never forget what the first kid that came into the clearing said. It looked like a big man wearing all black and a tan hat. It was really strange to us for reasons you could imagine. Why would anyone be basically in the middle of nowhere dressed in all black? A buddy and I wanted to see what it was exactly, and we started to walk around the pond to see if it was still there. And it was at this moment, to the right of us, in the other direction, we heard crack. You could tell it was a very thick tree that was snapped by someone or something. And then the sea of vines started being furiously shaken. Definitely something large, strong, and powerful. And all eyes went wide. Nobody moved an inch. And that's when another rock was thrown, and it came from the vined area where the tree was just snapped. Being a group of kids, we did exactly what you would expect. We picked up rocks and threw them into the vined area where the tree break and the shaking occurred. Well, we all really sucked at aiming our throws, and only a few rocks hit the area. Whatever it was, I imagine, was probably silently laughing at us. But the tree shaking stopped and nothing else happened. The counselor with us said it's time to go. And we left, and we never went back there again. I never put two and two together until many years later when information became more available, thanks to the internet and TV shows about Bigfoot. I firmly believe that the encounters we had at camp in '86 were Bigfoot encounters. Nobody at the time ever mentioned the word Bigfoot, as we were all naive on the subject. I've told my story to my family, friends, and colleagues over the years, and I'm usually ridiculed. But I'm not one to worry over such things. I know what happened, and what I believe it was. That's all that matters. My own experiences have taught me to keep an open mind when people claim to see ghosts, UFOs, balls of light, or other unexplained things. Even though I've never seen these things, I'm apt to believe that others may have and support sharing their stories too. Best, E. Biggie. That's the last name. Okay, man, I appreciate that. That's a lot. It's a lot happened there. And I wonder, I got a funny feeling that some of the other people there are probably listening here today. I put money on it. Almost. You never know, but the chances are pretty good, right? Like what somebody say the other day, was there 67,000 or 68,000 people at the Super Bowl? And if you take all those people at the Super Bowl, it's basically that's how many people are here listening to all of you, possibly every day or every 2 days max, plus even more than that. Pretty crazy, right? That's pretty crazy to think about it that way, but it's true. I know I didn't watch the football game. I don't really watch sports myself. Not too much. But anyway, there you go. I wonder if anyone else from that time, from that specific campout, is watching. And if you are, and you want to email us, share my story at howtohunt.com. All right? You can share it with everyone through me, word for word, if you want. If not, that's fine too, obviously, right? Oh, I'm starting to melt, but I'm going to get one more shared. All right, here's another one. Good morning, Steve. First, let me say I absolutely admire what you've done and what you're doing. From your professional career to your personal endeavors, much respect. Appreciate those kind words, man. Thank you. You can use my first name, Zach. This is my story thus far. It's not a story that'll keep you awake at night, but I've grown up in the outdoors, hunting, fishing, and just enjoying this beautiful planet we're so privileged to live on and what it provides to us. I've been enjoying Potter County, God's country, Pennsylvania, since I was a very young child. The last 10 plus years, I've hunted a pretty remote area, also known as the PA Wilderness. I realize it may not be like your backdrops, but it truly is a wild place untouched. If you leave camp and walk just a short 30 minutes and down this one particular draw, as you walk deeper into this dark, mature pine forest, you always feel watched. I'm not sure what it is, but you can feel the eyes. And then as you get deeper, I've seen trees uprooted up to 12-inch in diameter and moved 40 to 50 meters away and turned upside down, sometimes, and stacked. There are others that are like threading the needle, better than Joe Montana could do, and in wise of trees. And there'd be 4 to 6 stacked there almost impossibly. When you reach this area, so close to camp, you feel supremely watched. Not scared, but watched. I've never seen what you have. The closest to that was one night. One day I slow hunted down this draw all the way to the bottom, walked the ridge on one side, then dropped back down and worked my way back up. Slow hunting, almost tree to tree all day. I felt those eyes at various times throughout the day, but when the sun began setting, I was in those big mature pines, so as you know, it grew dark very quickly, and the uneasy feeling of eyes grew intense. I could hear footfalls in the snow and branches breaking, but saw nothing, even in the soft glow of the fresh snow. I felt surrounded, and more so as if I was being herded or pushed, let alone followed. The wire hair feeling, as you've described, was prevalent. Of course, I was alone. I was uncomfortable and nervous, but not fearing for my life. I served in the military and was honored to serve in some of the best units the world has to offer, and unfortunate enough to be in some of the worst places in the world with those units, and not much shakes me. I saw nothing that night, but heard and felt. And I'll say this. As things got louder and more obvious, I was almost running out of that big timber. Again, not fearing for my life, but feeling an intense feeling of get out, but with a force I've never felt before. P.S. I'd be honored to have a beer with you one day, and would probably be like a grandson, cross-legged, starry-eyed on the floor, listening to your incredible hunting stories and experiences. Sincerely appreciate what you're doing and who you are. And any reply would be awesome. Thanks, man, and happy hunting. Godspeed, my friend Zach. Zach, I hope you're here listening and just heard me share your email. I appreciate those kind words, man. And one day, if I could sit down and have a beer, I'll probably have a dozen with you around a fire and listen to your stories too. with just as much enthusiasm. With just as much. I'm surprised a lot of you veterans and current military people, I'm surprised we haven't had emails from you guys, even on the sly, if there is a sly, sharing with us that you've had a talking to about these beings before going to various countries or going on training expeditions in the Northwest or anywhere in the States or Canada, wherever, North America, I don't care, wherever in the world, right? Surprised? Nobody has told us that they have had a talking to when it comes to this topic or others yet. Maybe they have. Who knows? Anyway, I gotta get going. My eyes are starting to fall asleep. Started to crash. But I'm gonna get everybody heard. Not gonna stop. I'll get more shared tomorrow after I do that podcast in the morning. I'll share the podcast link. I don't know when he's gonna have it up. I'll find out. If you want to hear me strictly talk about hunting, I don't know what he's gonna ask me, but I'm gonna get into it. Seems like a pretty good dude. Then what? Then that's it. I've got a what did I call it yesterday? A kid count. I've got Sarah's I got a kid count on the go. How many kids we've fed, and I'm gonna throw out a friendly challenge to anybody out there in their own community who wants to start something. Just start seeking out some hungry kids with moms that are freaking hungry right now, and feed them if you can. And we'll see what your kid count is, and we'll post them up. Sarah went out and delivered a whole pile of food yesterday, and she said that two of the moms, these little children, were literally jumping up and down when they saw the food. Doesn't that just frickin' put a lump in your throat and right in your backyard? I don't remember jumping up and down when I saw food when I was a little boy. That's something else, isn't it? The little small children jump up and down when they see a bunch of food brought into the house. Holy shit, you guys. What's going on? Right? What's going on in our countries? Anyway, we're getting it done. And what else? Another quick thing is, it doesn't matter what you do. It does not matter what you do or what you post online. Somebody's gonna hate it. It's such a sad, shitty thing to accept. It's frustrating. I've got a couple friends of mine who torment me at times. They'll send a screenshot. They love to watch the comments, which I don't. And they'll send me screenshots of the odd comment, and then because they know that I'm gonna get a little triggered. But I think we've had two people, they screenshotted to me that showing the people where their money went from the membership drive and showing the food that was bought to give to kids. Made them angry. They actually lashed out at me for posting the photos of the food that the membership money bought. Tried to attack me for it. Holy shit. Isn't that crazy? It's too bad. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. It's just maybe because I'm tired. I just get frustrated at the brain dead people that are in our societies today. You know, it's a tough thing to have to accept that they're just going to be a part of our lives. That's all there is to it, right? The misery's going to be there until somehow we can find the recipe to get rid of it and cure it, you know? That's what we're doing right now, every day. But anyway, I'm going to go before I babble your ears off and drive you crazy. We've got a lot happening. Got a lot happening, a lot on the go, as usual. All geared up towards truth, this topic, and more. And it's coming. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it off your chest. Get it made public. Get it out in the open. Use me to do it. Share with all the people who are here. I'll do it. I don't give a shit. I'll share what you know, what you saw. All right? Back tomorrow. Hopefully more awake tomorrow than I am right now. Later. It's a beautiful day. These fish just aren't doing what we want them to do. It's fun though.